What does it take to be a medical student, entrepreneur, and tech enthusiast all at once? Stay tuned. Hi, Austin. It's good to have you on my podcast.
Hello, Fatima.
How do you manage your time between studying MBBS and running your shoe business?
I utilize holidays.
So what are some of the most important lessons you've learned as a student entrepreneur?
Just do it. The most important word there, it's not the do, it's the just.
How do you handle setbacks or failure throughout your endeavors?
Failure becomes a failure when you don't bounce back.
How do you take care of your physical and mental health while juggling multiple responsibilities?
As a student of ABU, is anybody fine?
What advice would you give to students or other people who are struggling to balance their own responsibilities?
Get a mentor, then have a plan. If preparation is what is stopping you from doing what you have always wanted to do, then it's procrastination.
Campus Hustlers with Fatima Zakariyya. What does it take to be a medical student, entrepreneur, and tech enthusiast all at once? Stay tuned. Hi, welcome to yet another interesting episode of Campus Hustlers, your weekly dose of entrepreneurial spirit unfiltered. I'm your host, Fatima Zakariyya. I am an entrepreneur, a corporate event anchor, a voiceover artist, and of course, I am a podcaster. Joining me on today's episode of Campus Hustlers is Onoja Augustine Ujah, a visionary entrepreneur and an ambitious MBBS student at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, seamlessly blending his medical aspirations with his passion for business. As the founder and CEO of Nojan, a premium footwear brand, he is redefining style with handcrafted designs that embody minimalism, elegance, and sophistication. Since launching his shoemaking journey in 2018, Onoja has crafted and supplied numerous bespoke footwear pieces, steadily building a brand that resonates with quality and individuality. His ultimate goal is to take Nojan from a local sensation to a globally recognized name in the footwear industry. Beyond fashion, Austin thrives in event management, serving as the project manager for 16 events, a dynamic startup specializing in planning weddings, conferences, birthdays, and more. His ability to organize and execute high-level events showcases his keen eye for detail and strategic thinking. But that's not all. His curiosity for technology has led him to exploring coding, making him an intermediate JavaScript developer with a growing interest in the digital space. With a relentless drive for excellence and innovation, Austin is a force to watch, balancing multiple passions while carving out a path for success in diverse industries. Hi Austin, it's good to have you on my podcast.
Hello, Fatima.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I am.
I hope you bring all the energy.
Yeah, definitely.
Because my listeners can't wait to hear your story. They can't wait to hear a lot of invaluable insight you'll be sharing with us today. Alright, so Austin, let's start this way. Tell us, what inspired you to start making shoes? Let's start with that.
Alright, so it was 2018.
Alright.
And I grew up in a family where at one point in time, everybody just has to do something, like have a skill, yet. And I happen to be the last born. It's my turn to decide on what I want to go into. So the whole idea of shoes, palms, footwear just came to me. I liked the whole process of making it, how you bring something from your head and then you replicate it as a design and it becomes what people use. I think that was a major reason why I went into shoemaking.
Beautiful. All right, so now tell us what inspired the name Nojan, because it sounds so unique.
Yeah.
How do you come up with that name?
All right, so still growing up, I have a lot of memories with my siblings, my family. So we used to break dance in weddings. Yes, so my older brother, he was the one that actually came up with the name. So anytime we're going for weddings, like to dance and stuff, it would be like, the Nojans are back, that kind of stuff. So the idea, the name was so sweet. I liked it, and then I just adopted it as the name for my brand.
Beautiful. All right, so now I know that it's not easy balancing academic with entrepreneurship, especially as a medical student. That's a lot. So now tell us, how do you manage your time between studying MBBS and running your shoe business?
All right, so basically there are different approaches I use. First off, I utilize holidays. And the things I do during the holidays are I make sure I try to cover either all my handouts or at least half of the handouts before I resume. Because when I resume, I'm totally occupied with both academics and my extracurricular activities. So that's one. And then during the holidays is when I make more of the palms, more of the footwear. You get. So that's when I supply to brands, I supply to individuals and stuff. Then during school time, because aside my academics, I still have other engagements. So I make use of timetables, I make use of to-do lists. I just make sure that I'm not wasting my time. Time management is something I treasure very well. So before I sleep, I make sure that I have a visual representation of what I want to do the next day. So I write those things down, and then the next morning I execute it. Before I sleep the next day, I also do the same thing for the next. So it makes me to be able to manage my time effectively. That's what I do.
Beautiful. I love that. All right, so now tell us, what are some of the most important lessons you've learned as a student entrepreneur?
Okay, the first thing is it's not easy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will be like, I'm occupied with studies, I can't do something else, I can't do this, like a lot of excuses. And I know that it's not easy. And I was listening to Mel Robbins. I don't know if you know Mel Robbins. She's a podcaster as well. So there was a podcast she made, and it was like, just do it. She was explaining what Nike meant by just do it. So she was like, the most important word there, it's not the do, it's the just. Whereby Nike is recognizing that things are hard. They are recognizing that it's not going to be easy, but you just have to do it. You get. So that's one thing that stuck with me as a student entrepreneur. I know that it's not going to be easy balancing MBBS and balancing my extracurricular activities. So I just tell myself that I know it's hard. I don't expect it to be easy, so I just do it. You get. But it's not the time that the way I'm saying it now, you know, those times you are down. Exactly. Those times you are down, you would maybe break down, get emotional and stuff like that when the pressure is high. That's why it's important to surround yourself with people that can give you positive energy when you are down. You get. So you just have to choose the kind of people you work with. I read a book and they call it your tribe. You just have to choose the kind of tribe you want to identify it, so that these people will be able to encourage you when you are down and stuff like that.
So they can give you reason to just keep pushing.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that. So now something caught my attention, like when you are down and stuff like that. So tell us, how do you handle setbacks or failure in your business? Or let me say throughout your endeavors, how do you manage setbacks and failure?
Okay, so initially, let's say a year before now, I beat myself too much when I fail because I'm not used to failure. That's what I used to think. So anytime I fail, it comes like a shock to me. So I become, even if I didn't fail, but I didn't produce the result I expected. Even when people are praising me and stuff like that, I don't really feel it. I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from. So recently, I just learned to give myself grace. I learned to tell myself that I really tried my best. Everything is going to be okay. Just find ways that work. So it's just you going deep down into yourself, understanding the kind of person you are, and then learning how to give yourself grace to know that even if you are going through this situation, it's not the end of the world. You bounce back. Failure becomes a failure when you don't bounce back.
Failure becomes a failure when you don't bounce back. Interesting. I love that. Okay, so now tell us, I can see that you are doing a whole lot of things. So now tell us, aside shoemaking, what actually sparked your interest in JavaScript development, and how do you apply your tech skills to your entrepreneurial venture?
All right. So the whole tech aspect of my life came from my brother. This brother I've been calling since a particular individual, Alex. So he's like my best friend, my mentor, and also my brother. Most of what I have learned today, putting myself out there and stuff, I learned them from him. So he studied computer science. Then I was working, so he told me to use my money to buy a laptop. I did. And then I was like an illiterate to computer stuff. So I learned the basics of computer, and then he said I should explore programming, but I should just have a digital skill. So that's when I started learning Python. But to me, it was hard. People say it's easy. So I now switched to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And since then, I've been learning it. How have I applied it so far? I'm still in the process of learning it. So I've created projects I haven't hosted them yet. And then I also plan to be the one to create my official website for my brand Nojan.
Interesting. I can't wait for that website. I can't wait for it. All right. Yeah. Okay, so now success stories. Any success stories so far that you love to share with us?
Let me bring the one that most students will relate with. Okay. First success story is I successfully got admission into ABU.
Yes, it is indeed a success story
because if you are a student of ABU, you know how hard it is to gain admission. Yes. And I think it took me about 4 years to get MBBS. Yeah, I applied. I didn't get. Then I was studying MLS before. Okay. That's medical laboratory science, but I still knew I wanted MBBS. I wrote JAM and finally I got it. So that's one success story. Then the second success story will be linked to the 16 events.
Okay, that I mentioned.
Yes. Okay. So 16 events is a startup, and just as you said, we plan events, right?
Yes.
So we organized an event last year and it was very successful. So because of that, now we love the way we bonded with ourselves. So we now say, well, let's come together and form a team, form a standard, a professional company. That's where the whole idea came. So we are 16 of us. That's for the name 16. And our CEO dropped a message on the group that we should pick a role that we feel like we can participate in that role, like we can give it our best, that we can be productive in it and stuff like that. And then we should send a mail or send a message explaining why we think we're best for that role. And I was finding it hard to come up with ideas. So I now remember some of the things I've done in the past. And the reason why I was having that fear is because I saw everybody in the team. Everybody had experience. They were older than me and stuff like that. I was like, who will now make me the project manager in this kind of situation? So my brother, when he heard me say it, same Alex I'm telling you about, when he heard me say that, he was like, he doesn't expect me to be saying that at this stage of my life, that he feels like I've grown to that level where I can handle things like this. He was now mentioning programs that I've organized, events that I've done, and then competitions I've won. I participated as a project manager and we came first in those competitions. He said I should use it and apply stuff like that. So that's what I now did. I drafted this letter with so much enthusiasm, you get. So when they were now announcing the people that got the different positions, and I saw Onoja Augustine Ujah, project manager, I was shocked because I was seeing all these people that are like above me and stuff. They didn't get it, and I was the one that got it. That's a success story actually.
So shout out to Alex. I can say that. Okay, he has pushed you.
You definitely listen to this podcast.
All right. So now, Austin, I know for somebody who was studying MLS and because you wanted MBBS, you still went ahead to apply for MBBS. You wrote JAM. So now tell us, what's your future vision? What are your plans after graduation, and how do you see your business evolving? Because I can say that somebody who wrote JAM, I know that you can't afford not to practice. So tell us, like, what are your plans after graduation?
Alright, so aside from the fact that I'm passionate about MBBS, a mini reason why I still wanted to go for MBBS, or why I want to see myself as a doctor, is there is this ideology that if you are a medical student, you don't have time for that stuff. You don't have a social life. You can't do all that stuff. So I love it when I prove people wrong, that kind of stuff. I want it to be like when people are citing examples of people that are actually excelling academically in their career, when it has to relate to medicine, and then people that are excelling
in their business.
Exactly. That someone can then point to me and be like, if this person can do it, then you can do it. So it's just like a way of telling the ones that are coming after me that, okay, see, you can still be an MBBS student and still be very successful in other aspects of your life.
Beautiful. All right, so Austin, tell us, I can say that a lot of students now, they want to start their business, but they feel like, I can't do it. How can I cope? How do I balance it? And all, you understand? But now, listening to somebody who is studying MBBS, and aside the fact that you know that there is no course that is easy in Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, but then you are studying MBBS and you are still running a successful business. So what advice do you have for other students who want to start their own business?
All right. So the thing is, it's not going to be easy. And just as I said before, just
do it.
I just love that statement. Like, just do it. Prove to yourself that you can do this thing. And it's all about the whole process that matters. So there is this thing that James Clear said in Atomic Habits. He said, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Now, I'm coming back to that. What he was trying to say is, we all have goals. Okay, I want to be an MBBS student that is doing this, doing that, and graduate with first class and stuff like that. It's not the goal that matter, it's the system. When we talk about the system, it simply means those things you do, those things you have put in place to achieve that goal is what matters. So for instance now, if I always have this idea of I want to learn how to play a guitar, right? And then I have a guitar, but that guitar is always in my store. Do you know that it would be hard for me to push myself to go to the store and carry that guitar?
Because you're not seeing it every day.
As opposed to having that guitar on my bed. You get? So part of what I'm trying to say is the system I'm referring to is create a system, create an environment that is working towards you achieving that goal. I know it might be hard to combine something like MBBS or law with other stuff, but look for ways that work. And looking for ways that work, it means, okay, let's say you want to go into the shoemaking, for instance. So you just have to create a system, programming yourself. Okay, this is my schedule, my school timetable. These are the times I am free. Okay, if I'm free by this time, which means I'll have to create these palms by this so time, right? Okay, I know that because I'm combining academics, I'll not be able to produce more palms compared to when it's during the holiday. So I'll set an amount I should be able to make within this particular time. That brings me to something called overscheduling and underscheduling. Don't overcrowd yourself with activities. I learned this from Robin's podcast as well. Don't overcrowd yourself with activities, because when you overcrowd yourself with activities, you now find it hard to do them, or you feel discouraged. It's not going to be possible, it's not going to be easy. So you underschedule, like put it at the minimum, because once you have realized this, as the day is going, you're seeing unexpected things. You're seeing things that you didn't plan for. Exactly. So when you underschedule and just have like a minimum of what you want to do that day, when new things come, you still have enough strength to do them. So just make sure you have a plan. Make sure you make use of stuff like to-do lists. You make use of stuff like habit tracker and so many things you could do. Just look for what works for you and go on with it. That's just it.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much for that, Austin. Before we dive into the second segment of the podcast, I know people are listening right now and they are wondering, who is this big kid? I cannot wait to connect with this person. So tell us, how can listeners find you? Are you on social media? How can they connect with you?
All right. So first off, I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
Austin_27. That's my Instagram name. And then I have an email account. Onoja Augustine Ujah at gmail.com. You want to send me a mail. So, but I'm still working on bringing myself out there online. I get that. All right. Thank you so much for that, Austin. All right, listeners, we are about to dive into the second segment of the podcast. Austin and I, we are going to be discussing the topic, how to balance multiple venture with academics. Obviously, you can tell that he's in the right position to take us through this topic. We all know that the balancing school and business is tough, but not impossible. How do you manage both without losing your mind? Let's find out in this segment. All right, Austin, tell us, what strategies do you use to manage your time effectively between academics, Nojan, and other commitments? Okay, so I think the best way is just to walk you through a process, how my normal day life goes. So first off, let me start from the night. I sleep by 12 a.m.
You sleep by 12 a.m. and you call that early?
Yes, because there are sometimes I could stay up to 1, 2 or stuff. Like, I know it's not very healthy, but for the period of the stage of my life right now, I've trained myself in a way that if I sleep like an hour, it can carry me the whole day. But it's not, I'm not advising people.
Even personally, I can't take that advice.
I'm not advising people to do that. But I sleep by 12 a.m. Then most times I wake up 5. So 12 to 5, I'm up. The next thing is I meditate, I affirm. When I tell people I meditate, they actually, like, it sounds strange to them, especially from this like Africa and stuff like that. I meditate. Meditation is something that it has taught me a lot of things. Growing up, I used to be very anxious. Even interacting with you right now, I could get nervous and my heart would be beating and stuff like that. But ever since I started reading books and learning about meditation, it has really helped me. Let me tell you a funny story. This semester, when I was coming from Abuja to Zaria, so I had a lot of load. I brought my equipment for shoemaking and stuff like that. So I now slept off in the bus. Guess who I woke up? Kanu.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
For 2 hours. I was like 2 hours into Kanu. And to me, I just felt like it was a 10-minute sleep. So where I'm headed to now is, it was so chaotic because I was with about 4 heavy loads plus my filing engine. The driver didn't know how to speak English. I didn't know how to speak Hausa.
Wow.
The area I was at, nobody was speaking English and stuff like that. To make it worse, my phone was down. So you get, at that moment, the whole experience I had from childhood of being very anxious started coming up and stuff like that. So I just remembered that I have to meditate. That's when I meditated, and it really calmed me down, you get. So I'm just stressing the importance of meditation. I was just telling myself one step at a time, stuff like that. See, I got out of that area, although I dashed a lot of people money to just take me to where that was familiar, but meditation is very important. It's something I do every morning. So after I meditate, I affirm. Then affirmations, you know what affirmations are? Just the kind of things I want to be. That's like I tell myself I'm confident, I'm handsome,
I will do
this kind of
I
stuff.
will win, I will,
So then the next thing is, sometimes I exercise, but most times when I'm in school, I hardly do that. During the holidays, I exercise every day.
Being an exercise is an exercise on its own.
As in,
it's a natural gym.
So the next thing is, I sit down before I stand up from my bed after my affirmation and meditation and probably my prayer. The next thing I do is to write my to-do list. So I'll write my to-do list, everything I want to achieve for that particular day and stuff. So for people now that might want to learn how to balance everything, I think they should have a to-do list. You get? Then my day officially kicks off. I start ticking my to-do list. I make sure that I have a lot of sticky notes, because if you write it in a book, the book might be too big to carry about. But I can easily
carry your sticky notes around.
Carry my sticky notes around. I paste them on my wall. So that's one way I still tackle like balancing stuff. And then make sure that you are not doing too much, in the sense that I know there are a lot of things that you could do, or there are a lot of things that you should do, but be very realistic. Know that you can't do everything. You can't be there and the next minute you are here and the next minute you are here. All because you want to prove that as an MBBS student you can be doing multiple things. So that's one thing I learned recently. I just know that I can't do everything. So I just make sure I choose the most important. And I learned this thing from Vusi Fembakwaya. I don't know if you know Vusi. He's an entrepreneur as well. So he's like my mentor. So he said he draws a cross-like shape. And then at the top you write very important, less important, very urgent, less urgent. So something might be very important but not urgent. Something might be urgent but not important. Something might be urgent and important. You get? So when you are able to have something like that, it tells you what you should focus your energy at. Instead of, you might just feel like, okay, this one is not important, or this one is urgent but it's not important, and since it's just 5 minutes, let me just give it my time. With that, you are wasting time. You get? But if you are very intentional, that's the word that I've been waiting for to come to my head. Being very intentional in what you do. You get? So if you are very intentional with your time, I think you are good to go.
All right, beautiful. I love the fact that, okay, you talk about planning, to-do list, how you visualize what you want to do the next day. But then, just like you mentioned earlier, you said something that has to do with sometimes unexpected things will come up. So now tell us, how do you handle unexpected setbacks or changes in your plan? How do you handle that? Since this is something you don't have in your to-do list and it just came up, how do you do it?
So first things first, you have to wait. So this thing that is coming unexpectedly is important, and probably it could be important, right? And then you just have to think about a way out. If it is clashing with another activity, you have to weigh both. What is the best action? Is it that I can take an excuse from this activity and it won't affect me more, then I can go and attend to this one. So it's just you being a human being. No human being reason, right? You just have to be a human being and go with a particular decision. And sometimes the end result might not be what you expected. Let's say you decided to go for this activity rather than to go for this other activity, right? And then the result, let's say you thought that they would take attendance, for instance, or you thought that it's something that your project manager would have come or something, you get, and he didn't show up, you now feel disappointed, or you now be beating yourself up that you made the wrong decisions. So another thing I said again, I've learned to give myself grace. I am human, right? So just know that no matter the decision you have made, you made it at that point thinking that it's the best decision for you than if you had gone for the first one. You get. So it's more of saying at that point there's nothing like a right or wrong decision. You just weigh what's best for you and you took that chance.
Beautiful. I love that. Alright, so now you said you usually sleep 12 a.m. Yes, and I feel for your MBBS students, like you should know that this thing is not healthy. You understand? So tell us, how do you take care of your physical and mental health while juggling multiple responsibilities? How do you do it?
This is a very tricky one. As a student of ABU, is anybody fine? Because we're all going through a lot. But one thing that I've learned to do is to establish a support system.
Okay.
My brother Alex, again, that guy has really tried for me, because when I'm going through my worst moments, when I achieve stuff, everything, I go back to him and we have conversations. So I could remember last year, there are a lot of times where I was down. I was writing tests, and the effort I was putting in those tests, I was not seeing the results. Like the scores were just looking funny and low. I was telling myself that what's the point of putting in the effort if I know that if I don't read, I'll get this score. And now I'm putting in more effort and I'm
not getting what I wanted.
Exactly. Yes. So just have a support system, someone that you can always go to and have conversation with, that will always encourage you. It could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be that group of people. Just make sure you learn how to communicate. I've seen a lot of people that have become depressed because they don't know who to talk to. You get. I've seen a lot of people that are going through stuff and they find it hard to open up and share these things with people. I'm not saying that you should tell everybody your problems, right? I'm just saying find one or two people you have built a strong relationship with, someone that will be like a backbone to you, a support system to you. So that's one of the things I do when I am down. And then again, when I'm down, I meditate.
So that meditation is also important.
I meditate, like just make sure everywhere is silent. I've been using a particular instrumental for a while now, so it has become part of me. I use it to meditate and read. So anytime I want to meditate, I just make sure I look for a quiet place. Even if the place is not quiet, my eyes are closed, I feel very relaxed, and then I try not to think about anything. So it helps me a lot. It helps me to recover from wherever down path I've been in.
Interesting. All right, so Austin, now tell us, what advice would you give to students or other people who are struggling to balance their own responsibilities, the balancing aspect? What advice would you give them?
Okay, so first things first is I would advise that person to get a mentor.
Okay.
Yes, getting a mentor is very important because they have been in the game for a longer time, and rather than you just having a first-hand experience or like you experiencing the negative things they experience and stuff, it will go a long way because they'll tell you what you should avoid, what you shouldn't avoid. They will guide you through the process. Some of them might even want to like engage with you when you're starting whatever you want to go into. So first things first is get a mentor. Then secondly, to have a plan. Plan is very important because there's nothing you can do successfully if you don't have a plan. Now, getting a plan simply means there's something we call action plan in business, right? Action plan involves breaking down your goal into the actual steps you are going to take. And those actual steps in business, we call them objectives, like those stuff you do to achieve that goal. Okay, it's not just stopping at I want to be a podcaster. You get. So it's not just stopping at that point, but as a podcaster, what and what you have to put in place. You get. So you have to come up with a script, like a storyline. You have to reach out to people. You have to
question.
Exactly. So you just need an action plan. And I think it's one of the things that many people shy away from because it's easy to just come up with idea. I want to start a podcast. I want to do this. But when you're now seeing the whole process laid out in front of you, you'll be like, man, is this thing for me? Yeah, exactly. So get an action plan. This is what I want to do. There's another thing we call monthly calendar for content creators. Okay, I'm going to post every Thursdays by 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. I'm going to post every this and that. You get. So just make sure that you can be able to visualize your month. You can be able to visualize your week. That's the second one. Then the third one, like I've been saying, just do it.
Okay.
So no matter how you plan, there is part of that Atomic Habit I read. There is a part where it said if preparation is what is stopping you from doing what you have always wanted to do, then it's procrastination. because if you keep telling yourself that you're preparing, you're just procrastinating. So in as much as you have an idea of what you want to start, just do it. You will know if you will succeed or not when you start seeing the results, right? When you fail, you can just be like, okay, this is not for me, or you can still keep going pending when you achieve that result, right? So the most important thing is make sure you do something, even if it's very tiny. When as much as it's adding to that goal you have set,
to keep
just
adding.
do it. You get
Beautiful. All right, Austin, you made mention of planning, you made mention of mentorship. You said we should just do it, like encourage, okay, just do it, things like that. And like you made mention of calendar, making use of calendar. Okay, so now can you be specific? What resources do you rely on, like you as a person? What resources do you rely on for guidance, mentorship, or skill building? You made mention of Alex. Shout out to Alex. There are people, let's be real, there are people that they don't have anybody to go to. You understand? But we are in a digital age, and there are books, there are podcasts, there are a lot of things. So you as a person, what resources do you rely on?
All right. So first off, I think one of my earliest mentors online I got to know is Vusi Thembakwayo. He has a podcast, he's on TikTok, he's on YouTube. He's an entrepreneur. He teaches people about business, how to gain leverage, how to build your businesses from scratch. He's so beautiful. Like, there are a lot of things I like about him. You get? So I see him as my number one mentor when it comes to business. And I want people to check him out. He's very good at that. Then secondly, I found it hard to articulate my thoughts very well while growing up. I had a lot of emotions I couldn't express. When I'm angry, rather than me to just say something, I could just use my hand and beat or stuff like that. You get? So I was scrolling randomly on Instagram and I met this guy. His name is Jefferson Fisher. So Jefferson Fisher, his whole podcast is how he used to say this word. This podcast is how to make your next conversation the one that changes everything. You get? So he talks about having good conversations. How to, let's say you want to go into content creation, you want to become a podcaster, you want to be having interviews, hosting people and stuff like that, but you're finding it hard to articulate your thoughts, you're finding it hard to interact with people. He's the person I learned from. His contents are very short, 15 minutes podcast, 15 minutes, but it's very loaded. There are things you could practicalize from what he's saying. So that's another one. Then Mel Robbins, I've been mentioning her. So Mel Robbins is someone that I could also recommend that you check. She made me understand something. There's this podcast she made that motivation is garbage. She was like, let's think about it. When you are going through life, when you are down, do you notice that you don't really have that motivation? And most times you are always motivated when your energy is high. So she was not trying to say that actually motivation is garbage. You get? But someone might not see it that way. It's just her own podcast, right? So she now taught me an important principle that I've been implementing in my life. It's called the 5 seconds rule. I know a lot of people have been hearing about it these days. So 5 seconds rule. She was sitting one day, her life was messed up, she was in debt and stuff like that, and she found it hard to get motivated. Then she was watching a movie and she saw a rocket launch. Bam! She was like, tomorrow morning she's going to launch herself up from bed like that. So how it works is, I visualize myself like what I want to do in the night before the next morning, right? So when I'm on bed and I've decided that, okay, I'm going to wake up by 5, it's actually hard. Sometimes your alarms will go off, you snooze and snooze like 10 times, it's around 9 a.m. right? You get? So I started practicing this 5 seconds rule where I will count from 5 to 1 backwards. I just told myself 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll just stand up with a high energy. And it helps. Like scientifically, like there have been research on that. A lot of people, that's the approach nurses are using to teach people that are struggling with habit and stuff like that. So Mel Robbins is someone you should check out if you want to have better habits. If you are going through a lot, you might be depressed or life is hitting you very hard. She's a good person I could recommend for that. Then in terms of books, I should go into books, right?
No problem.
All right. For books, I think one of the books I read from a very long time was Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's a business. It's a business related book. So I recommend Rich Dad Poor Dad. Then I think the first thing I needed to build for myself was good habits. I'm very procrastinative. I can procrastinate a lot. So the one that really taught me a lot about habits is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Yes, Atomic Habits by James Clear. You could see that during the podcast I've quoted some of his words. I've talked a lot about him. It's someone I would recommend. Then also growing up, I used to see myself like someone that is socially awkward. You get? So it's a funny thing, but I get nervous in crowds and stuff like that. So I wanted to improve on myself. So I started reading this book by Vanessa Van Edwards, Captivate the Science of Succeeding with People. So she teaches about social cues, like identifying social behaviors, how to you are seeing yourself as a recovering social awkward person, right? So how to behave in social settings, learning the do's, the don'ts and stuff like that, learning about there's something we call micro expressions, where you get to, she taught us how to interpret micro expressions. For instance, if I say something and then you don't give your consent to it and you don't agree with it, but you're nodding your head, I could tell. Let's say I'm interacting with you and then you are lying to me, or those kind of situations. She teaches us how to understand people, how to put yourself in their shoes, a lot of that, how to behave and stuff. That's another one. Then very important, if you want to learn how to interact with people, make friends, like choose good circle of all those people you have always envisioned yourself to be among their circle. Like if you want to start practicalizing that, then I will recommend How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I think I'm in the last chapter of that book. It's a book I recommend for everybody. It teaches you how to put yourself in people's shoes. It teaches you how to make genuine connections with people you get and leave a good impression on people. And more, I could go on, but
I can see that you could go on. Talking about the podcast, the books. No. You shared a whole lot of resources, and I feel like
one more person in terms of business, Stephen Bartlett. Yes, Stephen Bartlett is someone that you should check out. He talks about stuff that has to do with business. He's an entrepreneur as well, a very young entrepreneur. So that's why a lot of youth like could relate with what he says and what he does. So you could check him on TikTok and then on your podcast.
Wow, beautiful. Austin, it has really been an amazing time with you. I can say that my book is filled up already because I have learned a whole lot from you. And not to talk about our listeners, I have really learned a whole lot from you. All right, so now, but I have one more question for you before we go.
All right.
Are you ready for my final question?
Okay, let's have it.
All right. Austin, you've made mention of a lot of people like you look up to, people you learn from business-wise, you understand academically and all. You've mentioned a whole lot of people. So now I want to ask you this one question, and that is, if you could collaborate with any brand or influencer, who would it be and why? It can be in terms of event management or your brand-wise shoemaking. Who would it be and why? I know maybe you have like thousands in your head right now.
Yes, and that's why I'm finding it hard to pick one.
Just tell us one.
All right, so it's a tricky one. It's definitely be Nike. Yes, because how I see my business, although we are starting small, but I want it to be like a home brand. Like when you hear Nike, everybody know what Nike is. I want that same experience where you hear the word Nojan. Like, okay, this is a shoe brand. And I'm thinking of moving from not just creating footwears like palms and the rest. I'm thinking of going into sneakers. Yes, like very ambitious. That's one thing I want to venture into. So if I can partner with Nike, it's going to be a dream come true. You get? So that's one.
All right, Austin, I pray that your dream will come true, your wish will come true by God's grace.
Amen.
Like I said earlier, it has really been an amazing time with you. I have really learned a whole lot of things from you, and I'm sure that our listeners, they have also learned a whole lot of things from you. And I hope that next time, because you are somebody I would love to have back on this podcast, so I hope that if we call up on you next time, you are going to still grace our podcast.
Definitely.
All right, hustlers, that's all we have for you today. I hope this episode ignites your entrepreneurial fire. I hope you've learned a whole lot from Austin. All right, rate and review this podcast using the hashtag Campus Hustlers on all social media platforms. If you are yet to subscribe, hit the subscribe button now. Until next week, stay hungry, stay focused, and keep hustling. And most importantly, just do it. Bye-bye. Campus Hustlers with Fatima Zakariyya.